Welcome to the Global Spin Podcast with me, Ryan Cramer, where we take a deep dive into the world of global selling and share the secrets to growing your brand in new markets. Whether you're looking to expand your brand, enter new markets, or boost your sales, we've got you covered. Tune in for unscripted, engaging episodes that will take you on a journey of discovery and success. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Global Spin Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cramer, and this is my corner of the internet where I bring the best and brightest in the Amazon e-commerce logistics space, whatever you want to call it. This is where they're going to meet, congregate, and talk about all their insights, tips, tricks to help build your brand and take it to the next level. This is an unscripted podcast, so if you have only seen scripted podcasts, this is nothing that we won't be taking as questions come in because it's a live podcast. If you have questions on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or if you happen to write them in after the fact, we will make sure that we answer those questions as they trickle in those comment sections below. Just go ahead and point that to the side, the right, left, wherever you're watching this. If it's on YouTube, it's on your right-hand side of the screen. LinkedIn, it's on the bottom on the comment section. Feel free to drop by, say hello, let us know where you're listening from, and we'll give you a shout out live on the show. But if you catch us after the fact, or if you're listening this on your favorite podcast destinations, thanks for tuning in after. If you don't know, our audio version is located on all your favorite podcast destinations. That can be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. The video version can be found on Frisbi.com. If you go to our section with resources and hubs, you can actually go and check out the videos of all of our past episodes. We just released the audio version of episode 3. So you'll see past episodes start to trickle out the more content and episodes we release. But enough of that. We'll go ahead and jump right into today. We're taking a little pivot. We haven't had on the Global Spin Podcast anyone talk about specifically PPC, but this person reached out to me and he said, Ryan, there's a lot of different things in the world of e-commerce, but specifically in Amazon and Walmart, that a lot of people are still making the same mistake. And I looked at him and I said, I believe it. But it's kind of surprising if you think about it, that people are still making the same mistakes if we have all these talking heads talking about PPC, quite honestly, all the time. So it's really a matter of fact of which ones are people still making mistakes on? Are there things that people are confused by? I'm a big dum-dum when it comes to PPC in general. So we're going to be asking all the silly questions, but hopefully we can do a little bit of digging and help you as a brand owner get to the bottom of some of these silly mistakes that people are making here in 2023. So what I did is I brought on Daniel Fernandez of AMZ Clever. He is the founder of AMZ Clever, and he's been cranking out and building brands over $200 million in both Amazon and Walmart spend, but also growth and revenue. So welcome to the Global Spin Podcast today, Daniel Hernandez. Daniel Fernandez. I said Hernandez. Daniel, welcome to the Global Spin Podcast.
Hey Ryan, great to be here. I'm ready to spin.
You're ready to spin. Okay, I love it. I love that. That's the first time. So I love how people are coming in with their own little taglines with it. First off, name of the podcast, we're at 7 episodes and it's sticky, right? It's the Global Spin here with our logos. We like to go around the world, if you will, because it's not e-commerce doesn't just exist in one country, right? We like to take a look around the world. So thoughts on the title, or is it like whatever, we'll workshop it a little?
I think it's catchy. You're onto something.
I'm onto something. Okay, 7 episodes in, we're onto something, everyone. So hey, thanks for hopping on today. We titled this episode here, I'll just flash up the screen, PPC Hacks for 2023 Common Mistakes. What does it make it common? Like, I'm curious, like you say it's common, but maybe we should start from the beginning. Why you're the person who's at the forefront of all this, and you're just shaking your head over here in your corner, and you're like, why are people still doing this? So let's go into a background real quick. If people haven't heard of AMZ Clever, or you yourself, they should have, but if they happen to not, tell me about your background.
It's all good. 8 years in the Amazon space, and okay. Started selling very early on, but at the very beginning, I had just quit my job and didn't really have the capital to grow a business. So very early on, decided to shift to an agency. and that's
Okay.
when AMZ Clever was formed. I was in San Francisco back then, but when I started growing the business, decided to move to China. I lived there for 3 years, continuing to grow the business. Then lived another 2 years in Indonesia, in Bali, and now I'm back in the States. I'm in Florida, and trying to find more success stories, more brands to help grow. I would say our ticket to fame was a brand that some people know called Dr. Squatch. They sell natural soap.
Right.
We
So
started with them, worked with them for like 5 years, and saw an amazing growth. Now them becoming a 9-figure brand, on Amazon and across.
so
So we work with brands like that, high ad spend. Also work with brands that are pre-revenue, like really solid product, but getting those initial sales and scaling from there. So I've been fortunate, my team and I, to see a nice variety of brands, of what works, what doesn't work. We've been trusted, spending a decent amount of cash on ads. So that's a very very awesome experience that we've had.
that's awesome. Well, I mean, first and foremost, congratulations on all the success. So you've been in the space for 8 years. What were you doing? You said you left a job. What were you doing prior to kind of building AMZ Clever?
Yeah, I was in San Francisco. I was doing tech sales.
Tech sales. Anything
Yeah,
specifically, or just like a software, or is it? What was that like? What did you enter that space?
yeah. I was with Apple, so selling whatever they had at that point.
Oh, okay.
And
So pretty big company.
yeah, yeah. And I think around that time there were like a few iPhone launches, and it was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you a story. I've never shared this, but I remember one time, um, this person, we're talking about the iPhone, and this person told me like I would never buy a case from Apple, and I was like, why? And I was like, well, I can find the same thing on Amazon for you know 10% of the price, right? And that I was not an Amazon shopper back then, and that was the first time that it hit me. It's like, okay, this is something maybe I should pay attention to.
Interesting. So they actually introduced you to the world of not just selling on Amazon, but more specifically buying on Amazon, and that kind of piqued your interest. Is that what it kind of that evolution went to?
Well, it just made me think, right? Because we were selling, thousands of Apple products, to companies in the tech in a Bay Area and whatnot. Um, and I just, I just hadn't thought about e-commerce, or like why some people would just not, you know, buy it from Apple. So it it put Amazon on my radar, and it's interesting how the world works, right? Like because that's one event I remember, and then a few months later, a friend forwarded me one of the first podcast episodes that talked about Amazon FBA. I remember to this day it was a Pat Flynn Smart Passive Income podcast episode, and that's when I basically entered the industry.
Wow.
And shortly after that, I left my job. So it, how it works, right? How life is, that one thing kind of plants a seed and takes you to the
Right.
next thing.
That was like me too. So I've shared this story quite a bit, but yeah, I had took a chance on a manufacturer and distributor for a home gift garden company. Didn't know anything about e-commerce, and I was in charge of their direct to consumer segment of affiliate marketing. So it was working with slickdeals.com or all these deal sites and kind of amplifying our products and trying to sell them through affiliate marketing, where there's a kickback and commission, similar to Amazon affiliate program now. Very famous with that program now, but my job was to go out and kind of talk to influencers and blogs and websites and get our garden products onto their websites. And I cut my teeth and grew our business from 0 to 6 and 7 figures. But again, it's not about me. It's kind of like how the story evolves, and you start to track like how you're driving sales and data. And then Amazon FBA became quite large back in 2016, 17, when our brands were trying to enter that market. So we were forecasting, months, if not years in advance, trying to get enough inventory purchased and sent directly to FBA fulfillment center. So it's kind of funny, like you said, how you were introduced via YouTube video or, a podcast. and then people kind of enter the market, they get more curious, to get, hungry for that. But why not? I guess my question for you is, why not enter a selling aspect of it instead of a service side of aspect? Like, you're here helping other people grow. Why not take that chance on yourself and grow your own brand?
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I've been asked this a lot. And I mean, the truth is, at the beginning, I started selling. That's
Okay.
how I really entered the industry and created a brand, source of product, did the whole journey, and it did really well. It did so well that it sold out. So I was still doing my day job, and then I you know restocked the product again. This time, a larger amount. It's like, we're good for like the next 6 months, and then sold out again in a month. Um, so then the third time, that's when I decided to leave my job to put more effort to this, more focus to this. And that third time, the product didn't sell out. Like, we had already competitors jumping in. And then, at that point, I was living in an expensive city, and with the e-commerce business, you got to keep feeding it.
Right.
So to continue growing with the next product and the next product and the next product. So at that point, I, was very fortunate to find some mentors. One specifically that told me to, like, no, you need to turn this into an agency, and that's what I did. And the power of focus is very important. Like, I really never looked away from that. Just focused on growing this business, and it's been obviously ups and downs, but it's been an amazing journey. And the plan is to continue growing from where we are now.
That's amazing. So how big's the team? So I would say, if people haven't heard of AMZ Clever, again, just a high level, you guys are a marketplace full management service company. You're not just focused on PPC. Where PPC is like the sexy side. Other side of management is inventory, product listings, making sure you're optimized, taking down listings. If things are taken down, you're getting back up. You're kind of doing the whole kit and caboodle, for lack of a term. Making sure you're managing out other people's brands, correct? Is that how you would classify your
Yeah,
team?
yeah. So I mean, the promise is that we'll take over the Amazon channel for the brand, or the Walmart.com channel for the brand, and then we'll grow it, faster and more efficiently that they could do themselves.
Sure, of course.
And some people are not even capable of growing it, just because they have too many things going on, or like CEO syndrome that just wants to do everything. It's an interesting thing is we've seen all the different clients that we've worked with. We've seen the ones that scale faster than others, and it's very evident to see that the ones that delegated faster, that outsource faster, to the person that was maybe better at doing the thing, are the ones that now have bigger brands, bigger businesses than others. But that's a bird's eye view. But in to be more specific, yes, we run and grow all the PPC parts of Amazon, and with some clients that we manage the whole thing, the whole store, obviously restocking. A lot of it is collecting the right data and interpreting the right data, and that's something I want to talk about in terms of the title of this episode. The hacks and the common mistakes. A lot of it is around data, because we all have it available, but if we run a survey, like, how many people actually make business decisions based on their data on a weekly basis, I think is less than what we would think, what we would expect.
Unfortunately, right?
Yeah,
That's the unfortunate realization. And we talked about it. You said common mistakes. So alluded it to the introduction, and I want to get right into it too with this episode. When we talk about common, this is something that everyone has a. I'm going to set the table, and hopefully you can fill in the blank spots for me and Daniel. Is everyone has the same opportunity to be successful on Amazon? I'm gonna just paint the blank canvas here. Everyone has the opportunity. There's no, when you launch a product, regardless of what the product is, everyone has the same platform they're working through. Amazon's Seller Central. There's no enterprise level. There's no other levels that we can really like tap into besides if you're there consistently with brand registry and so on and so forth. But when you start, everyone has a blank canvas that's exactly the same. So those things that stand above and beyond are, like you said, PPC, trying to get in front of other relevant people who are searching for your product. And that's the easiest way to do it, for lack of a better term, with money, correct terms and bidding and optimization. But when it's common, it's almost like, because it's the same across the board, it's really funny to keep hearing that people are constantly talking about the same mistakes. Like, it's almost like tripping over yourself. All you have to do is tie your shoe, right? But why aren't people tying their shoe? That's the analogy I wanted to get out of there. Is you're seeing this constantly with over and over with all these brands you're working with. Why are people falling and not tying their shoes?
It's there's so many things to pay attention to, right? And a seller, a solopreneur has to do everything. And a full-time job is sourcing products, right? So then imagine doing that plus doing all the advertising and the launching your products on Amazon, plus running a business, plus if you have employees and a team, doing all of these profitably. It's a ridiculous amount of work. And the faster someone decides to outsource, I think is the better. But to answer your question, the reason there's common mistakes is things fall through the cracks just because there is so much. You pretty much, like, PPC is a full-time job on its own for more than one person. One person needs to be more like bird's eye view, overseeing the direction. One person needs to be in it, at least, moving things the way they need to be moved. We could talk about, I know technology is hot these days. There's a lot of technology out there, and there's a lot of automation, and I think there's a lot of confusion there. I think there's room for that, but never to replace the fundamentals. Never to, like, a business owner or CMO or the person in charge should know what's going on. I think at a deeper level, there are situations where catalog of 10,000, 20,000 SKUs. There's a point where it's virtually impossible, where some of this automation is pretty much the only way to go. But oftentimes, I don't think it should replace know-how.
So when you're talking about know-how, is it just lack of education? Where is it that you're seeing people trip up? Are they more like just beginning sellers, or they've been misled some way or shape or form, or they're just both? Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. And Ryan, look, we audit brands every week, right? To see if we should work together. And I see sellers that 3-4 years selling, maybe exited brands, all kinds, right?
Right.
And one of the common mistakes, for example, is not using all the Amazon ad products that are available, right? You wouldn't believe how many accounts we see where they are only running sponsored products, right? Maybe a few more running sponsored products and sponsor brands, but they're not running a sponsor display, right? Those are the 3 that are available in Seller Central out of 5 ad products that we recommend everybody should run to some extent, right? But most of the accounts we see, they're running 1 or running 2 of them. So here's a common mistake or hack for this year. The most successful from an ROI standpoint ad product for us, for most of the accounts we manage, is sponsored display ads. Specifically, the retargeting portion of it. We're making a killing with that. We're getting ROAS of 5, 6, 7, 8, on ad spend that we allocate there.
To clarify, you're talking about DSP or display, like retargeting?
Inside Seller Central, the one that everybody has access to. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that don't run it, and the ones that run it, they don't even run the retargeting part, which is the best one. So
So why aren't
So
they running
that,
it? Is it like hidden, or is it like the format changes? Like for someone who, I'm not in Seller Central every day, right? I get access to catalogs once in a while when we do audits as well. What is it that people aren't just activating it? I know it's either a toggle or switch, or a field that you have to input. What is it that people are just not aware of it, or is it just buried, or what's the
yeah,
where's the mistake there?
I would say, I mean, there's a few things. One is Amazon has not really shared it much. Like on the homepage of Amazon, sometimes they pop up with, new features. This one, for some reason, they haven't really made much noise about. The other reason is sponsored display ads. You have few different targeting options, and this is just one of those targeting options. It happens to be the best one, in our opinion, from what we've seen, but it's just one out of a few. And I think it's just people are overwhelmed because Amazon has been very prolific at adding features to their advertising, console, and I don't think that most people are caught up. Or another benefit of being an agency is we get so much. Our data sample is wider than anybody else that is just running one brand.
Sure.
By a factor of 30 plus. So we're able to test things at scale that a brand alone cannot. So that's why a brand alone maybe does a test campaign, but they don't know how much money they're leaving on the table from the benchmarks that we build. Those are some of my guesses on why people are not implementing a lot of these features. And then the last one, just going back to the main point, is I think there is so much to do that it's hard to keep up. Especially if somebody is trying to do everything themselves.
Right. It's overwhelming, right? We had our guest on yesterday. His name is R Blank. He runs the brand Shield Your Body, which has to do with emitting radiation from like screens, cell phones, things of that sort. And they have products across the board. They've been selling. I think he said 2016 or 17. And my question to him was, you have so many products that cover one specific type of niche. How do you keep up with selling on Walmart, selling on an omni-channel ecosystem? And he said, we actually dial it back. We get really focused on what we're good at and what our products are with. And we target and we try to stay within a couple lanes for education of, he said, whether it be, working with certain partners or just getting information, because if you just get sucked down these black holes of, I'm assuming like you do, of PPC, you're constantly just evolving and adapting and looking through terms of service and looking at all this analytics. You just don't have the bandwidth or time, even if you had 24 hours a day, to read everything you can about PPC. There's this whole other component of, like you said, product listings, inventory management, all this other components. You just can't absorb it all. So you have to almost like narrow and block yourself into places where you trust, and for education purposes. Does that feel right for you guys for sources of truth, or kind of understanding what new and updates are coming, or is it just a lot of testing and then you develop your own?
Yeah, it's both. I like the concept of 10% education, 90% execution.
Okay.
Right? So there is definitely, we don't know what we don't know, so that 10% should always keep feeding. And I'll tell you, for example, for you guys, like you guys do so many shipments and so much logistics. It would be naive for me to say we've seen more examples or know what not to do than you guys, right?
Sure.
And the same thing is with the brand, right? That they even if they run PPC full time, it's going to be a fraction of the amount of exposure that we get. So a brand alone will never catch up. It's more like agencies against agencies, if you may, right? But it's really that experience. So my team, there's people that look at PPC every single day. That's all they do, right? It's and not just one brand, but a few brands, and then we have the benchmarks that we build across brands. So it's how can somebody get so much exposure, right, when they're just running one brand?
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
I think it's like if we talk about logistics and I'm chatting with you, I will shut up and listen.
it's a whole new world, and that's a beauty with e-commerce too. Is for a marketing person like myself, or at least I jokingly say I play e-commerce bingo, right? Like in my history of working in the space, I've done software, I've done finance, I've done shipping and logistics. I've almost run I've ran multiple brands and in like their success for multiple years. It's scary to think that one person running this all by themselves and trying to understand and constantly adapt and grow and then work on the little things that separate themselves from other people in the space. It makes sense why you're coming to me today and you're like, Ryan, people are still making these same mistakes. It's probably because they don't have time to spend on YouTube to constantly watch and update and know the latest insights and tips because they're actively selling. But that's where when they start to get to a certain level, working with companies like you guys or like a Frisbi or other partners out there that help offload some of these like very very detail oriented tasks like PPC, that's where people start to take that next level as a global brand. So when you're working with a company, is that how do you guys put that in perspective of someone with promise, or is it more of a we just can't do it, we don't have the time, money, or effort? What are those parameters that you need to know before you even get engaged with a brand?
Yeah. So we don't work with any brand unless we audit the market and what they're trying to do. And our audit really runs around three main questions or three main points. The first one is there demand for my product on Amazon, right? Because Amazon is not good for creating demand. Amazon is great for joining demand that already exists, right? If somebody is too early for a product, like the iPhone wouldn't have been a good Amazon launch, the first iPhone, right? Like there was no demand. People didn't know what it was. Now it's different. Now there is a lot of demand. So that's the first question, right? And if you're listening to this and you're planning to launch a new product, or maybe you own a CPG brand or a direct to consumer website, and you're thinking about Amazon, the main question you should ask yourself is are people buying this type of products already there on Amazon, right? Easy way to gauge that is with competition. So, which leads us to the next question or the next point is, am I competitive, right? So now we found there's demand. Second question is, am I competitive, right? And that comes to a few things. Number one is price. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but Amazon is a very price sensitive platform. There is room for premium, okay, but that's something that a lot of people confuse. Premium is not just I want to be more expensive because my margin is requires it, right? Premium needs to be, is there a very objective uniqueness difference between your product and the rest that allow you to be premium, right? In my experience, there's a few that qualify. One is you're spending a lot on paid media, social media, maybe TV, or other types of ads on Amazon and off Amazon. So all of that paid media creates a lot of brand awareness that trickles over to Amazon, right? If you have that, if you're a CPG brand that has that, then 100% you're definitely allowed to charge premium on Amazon. And those are that specific type of brand we've done amazing results with, right? Like we've built in less than a year multi-million-dollar brands just around that. Anyway, that's just one. Another reason to be premium is there like a real benefit or feature that nobody else has, right? Between your product and the rest. And sometimes patented products fit in here, or at least something that you're a few months ahead of the competition, right? In being copied or being duplicated. But if you have that, then yes, you can charge premium. So that's in terms of price, right? Charging premium. Most brands, most products won't have that, but will have the advantage of being more price effective, right? If you're selling something that like a supplement or something is sold by the milliliter or by the ounce, you need to calculate the price per ounce in the niche and then compare with yours. And if you at least need to match it, you could be slightly higher, but that's just going to make it a little harder. If you match it or you're below that, we can help you basically, grow sales, make a lot of money, really. But that price advantage is very important. So that's the second question, right? Am I competitive? And it's the hardest part, because there's a lot of and some people are not gonna like to hear this, but there's a lot of pseudo premium products out there, right?
What do you mean by that?
Pseudo premium is you're charging more, your price is higher, but there's no real
The value or anything of that sort?
no objective value there, like in terms of a lot of brand recognition that it already exists, or features that are actually unique to you, right? That are actually valuable to the shopper. So one more thing to add about this is like, if you have those, that is your chances of success on Amazon are really high. And then the last thing, because I said three things, the last thing is to have a performance marketing mindset. If you have number one, number two, but you're not very performance marketing driven, then it won't work, right? And that's a mindset that we have, at my agency. And I'll give you a few examples. Everything needs to be dialed down to a number, right? And that needs to be tracked with consistency and discipline. For example, what percentage of your sales are coming from ads versus what percentage of your sales are coming from organic rankings, right? That's something that Amazon doesn't give you. That needs to be calculated, externally, and it needs to be tracked. It needs to be on a timeline. So that's one thing. Obviously your ACOS, your tacos, that's something that it's a little bit more well known out there, but still, tacos, you wouldn't believe how many people don't track it. And it's not like I'm going to look it up today. No, it's something that every week there should be a timeline, right, of how that looks like.
That's a great tip.
I can mention a few more things, that just come to mind. Obviously, your keyword rankings and what traffic is coming from those keyword rankings is another important one. Market share is something that is not talked about enough, I think. Like if for your main keywords there's 48 positions, right? How many of those positions have you taken with product, right? It's a finite, there's finite real estate on Amazon, and then you can really have a quantum leap, right, by taking over more positions than the competition. So, but it's that performance marketing mindset where most people look at their sales or profit, but that those are the consequences. Those are the lagging indicators of other leading indicators, right? Which is, again, around the ranking, around the ad spend, around the breakdown of that ad spend.
That's good. I love those tips. Those are great tips. And again, for everyone who's joining us or hopping in here, we have Daniel Fernandez of CEO and co-founder of AMZ Clever. Do you have a question? When it comes to globalization or any kind of taking that next step for a lot of our clients that we have, there's this aspect of confusion when it comes to spend and retargeting and focus. One of my favorite conversations I've ever had is talking about the Japanese market, and that there has to be PPC spends when it comes to 4 different cadences, right? You're talking about 4 different languages that are most common over there. When you start to, as an agency, develop this global mindset, not just, hey, we're looking to expand further, are you targeting language as a potential market for you to grow these brands as well? For example, a Spanish population here in the United States, or a Japanese market here in the United States. Do you look at those kinds of relevancies as well if your product makes sense to target those consumers within another country like United States, or a transplant from another country to the United States? Does that make sense, or do you guys do that?
Yes, I love that question. The short answer, the lazy answer is yes. But
It depends.
To expand a little bit more on that, and also to go back to my previous point of performance marketing, right? Mindset. when you run PPC, you want to segment everything, right? In the US, you want to have a campaign, for example, that is going after, your top keywords that are generic, right? That are non-branded. You want to have a campaign for your branded keywords, right? You want to have a campaign for where you're attacking ASINs, from competitors of, I don't know, brand Acme, right? Another campaign for brand XYZ. One of those segments, campaigns, and if you're selling in the US, should be Spanish keywords. It is, I forgot the statistics, but I think is a fifth or more of the population in the US speaks Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And we find keywords that get search volume, so how many times they get searched per month in Spanish in the thousands, right? Which is something a lot of people neglect. To add another tip or common mistake this year is not knowing that, and then not adding Spanish keywords to the back end of the listing,
Right?
To index for those.
Because if you think about it, and like you were mentioning, even just the translation at the top for going to Amazon.com, which 99%. I saw the statistic today. 99% of our seller, they're obviously looking at a global perspective of a different nationalities and whatnot, but who act on that, that percentage changes. But when it comes to Amazon.com, just to create this bubble, there's that translation option within the top right hand corner, I believe, and it's from different languages that you can just do within the .com ecosystem. So a lot of people actually, again, statistics are out there that they're researching even more. They'll go to .com and switch their language to a whole different set, whether it be Italian or whether it be Spanish or whatever you might be transplanted from. Clearly, if you've come from that ecosystem, you speak stronger a different language. You need to still fulfill within that same ecosystem or the country that you're in, but the cadences changes, the keywords change because of how people from those countries come and they think and they search for different things, right? It's more of a straightforward cadence if it's coming from Germany, or if it's more, we use adjectives a lot here in the United States, so there's a lot more fluff to what we're searching for, or there's a really true mindset when it comes to within our own ecosystem. It's not just straightforward English. And I'm curious for you guys, has there been an increase in traffic, or I would say just this segments where there's really this opportunity for lift to really take over this market because everyone's not really looking at this holistic picture of a customer?
Yes. So the example I gave about in the US about Spanish, it's only been growing. So if somebody's not doing that yet, that's a problem. And it's so big now that some people are even launching a new listing of the same thing, and they're writing the listing in Spanish. So it's a listing that is not going to rank for English keywords. It's only to outrank competitors on all the Spanish keywords that exist, right? In other countries, you mentioned the machine translation that Amazon does, and if somebody relies on that alone, they're leaving money on the table. It's working just like any Google Translate, would. The problem with that is there's no context and there's no regionalization. What we do when I think you mentioned it earlier, we help brands expand also from the US to Europe and to Japan and other marketplaces. And the process is first is translating, second is regionalizing the content, right? Sure. In the UK, the common example is how we spell color, right? In the US and in the UK, that's just in the spelling, but also in the UK they call them nappies. In the US we call them diapers,
right?
And if we rely just on the Amazon machine translation, we would be missing the main keywords, the main market audience for that product. So
it's a favorite game to play if where is this person located based upon either the product description in their listing or in their insert, if they put an insert, or like you said, if it's just a cut and paste and automatic translation. if we don't speak like that, then it doesn't feel natural and it feels right. And then that's one of those mental indicators that people are just like glaze over. You don't even need another second to think about it. Oh, they clearly it doesn't feel normal. So even though that product might be what they're looking for, it doesn't feel right. So it's one of those passive indicators that subconsciously we as people and consumers, we don't like. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel with what we're searching for. So you move along. So that's, I think, to add to your point, an indicator and a hack that not a lot of people think about, especially in the paid positions. You're spending so much money, you want to make sure that you're speaking correctly to that consumer. What about like the different changes? You've been doing this for 8 years, you said, over time with Amazon, and both Amazon and Walmart, I should say. When I think of the new changes that Amazon's bringing to the forefront, is there anything that's really exciting that's happened in the first like 6 months of this year, that whether it be AI or something within search that helps with sponsored products or anything of that sort that people are not paying attention to, that you want to kind of shout from the rooftops and say, hey guys, this is the next thing, buckle up?
Yes, 100%. Do you know what the new gold is?
The new gold?
The new gold, yes.
I don't. Tell me.
Data, right? Data is the new gold, or the new oil. I forgot what the common saying is.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
But who owns the data, right? Owns the
Sure.
I don't know, the future, or fill in the blanks. And Amazon has been very generous with the data they're giving us lately, to the point that some people just can't believe it, on what they're giving us. And that's what I'm very excited about. And that's something that's been also very recent, because they, for the longest time, we've been able to run PPC and then get, data on those keywords in terms of how my product how my product converts, what percentage of people that see my product in the search results pages clicks on it, right? We call that the CTR. But that was only for advertising. That was basically data we were buying, right, to be able to see. Plus, the sales that it helped generate. But Amazon has opened the gates now to give us that data for the organic side, right? So now we have a full picture of PPC plus organic. And that is revealing a lot of very interesting stuff. For example, let's say we're selling omega-3 fish oil, right? And we can see that we're able now and this is not to bore you with the details, right? But this is diving into brand analytics inside Amazon, the product opportunity explorer.
Yep.
And that's one side, but also the search query performance part of brand analytics. And then we're now able to find out what conversion rate our top competitor has for their the main keywords in the organic side.
Right. Basic math, right? You can search volume versus sales as of Amazon is, offering up of how many units per month, and kind of do the math.
Giving us the full funnel, right? They're giving us, first of all, keyword. Let's say Ryan Cramer is a keyword on Amazon. Right. Let's say it gets searched, 5,000 times, a month, right? They're telling us how many times it gets searched. They're telling us how many impressions for it, meaning how many products that index for that keyword appeared in total, right? They're telling us how many of those impressions were clicked, right? Then they're telling us how many of those were added to the cart. And lastly, how many of those were purchased, right? That's the whole funnel on the organic side. So what that allows to, do projections more accurately, allows to really know what the people at the top are doing, not just on ads, but in general, how their business is working, so that we know if we can match it or not,
right?
Or we course correct, right? If we see that the number one guy for the keyword Ryan Cramer, whatever you want to make that product be, right? It converts at 10%, right? And we are running ads on that keyword, and then it converts at 5%. And for the longest time, we try, it doesn't get closer to that point. that is indicating something something is intrinsically wrong with our product compared to theirs, right? But if the opposite happens from the get-go, we see that they are at a 10% conversion rate and we're hitting consistently 15% conversion rate. That's a scenario where a seller wants to double down on their ad spend and maybe even raise some money there, because that is a scenario where you have the potential to get to the top of the search results in terms of ranking.
Yeah, so, makes a painting in your job a lot easier. I mean, painting and fixture in your job a lot easier to show people, hey, this is a winnable search term, this winnable category. That, I mean, it's amazing. But I always look at it too. Like, I have two sides of my shoulder, right? I have the angel who's saying, like, look at all this data that they're offering. And then you have the devil side who's like, what's the catch? So, Daniel, I'm going to ask you, as the professional in the room with PPC, what's the catch? Why is Amazon doing this?
Yeah, I think there was a board meeting, and then
just a board meeting,
a board meeting, and then at Amazon, and then they just decided like we can't hold this any longer, right? I think it's probably Amazon realized that they have competitors, Walmart.com, Shopify. Retail is a competitor that is not obviously growing, right? But they probably thought, okay, how do we know that our prime customers are ours and the sellers that know Amazon, but how do we go after the ones that are anti-Amazon, right? And probably was, let's get in more data, right? Another thing too, I think, is Amazon's fastest growing department is their ad revenue, right? And they probably thought, okay, how can we make people spend more money on us? And then maybe somebody like a junior person like raise their hand, little shaky, say, well, can we give them more data? And then, maybe it's like the decision came around that way.
Interesting.
So I think it
very
came
detailed.
More...
I love this scenario. I love this movie, portrait or the storyboard that we've created for this. And then it was just a big approved. And then the next day it's up and running. So
and the guy got promoted to CEO
just under Andy Jassy, right? Leading the next Amazon Accelerate conference, probably is this person. So, I mean, like, I with data comes great responsibility, right? I think that's good. Obviously, there's so many software tools and information and kind of coming to a close here. Daniel, is that something that with more data, does that help us in the industry, people who are service providers, or does it actually help sellers, or is it gonna help with conversion? Have you seen any sort of, with this like very small sample size? I know you guys look at this all day long, and multiple people are looking at that. Is this helping at all? Is this helping you? Is this helping? Who's this helping really right now, if you had a guess?
Yeah, I think it's helping the sellers, allocate ad budget more efficiently, right? Whereas before it would be wasted in tests that now don't need to be run completely. So I think it's helping the brands and the agencies like mine, because we're able to deliver better results for our clients. But I think it's also helping Amazon, because these makes people spend and see results and not give up, or end up spending more on the things that are working.
And that data feels right to you, like based upon your analysis and looking at like different tools who are cross comparing and checking, everything feels right or close, or
I might give Amazon a little bit of margin of error.
They swing in their favor instead of other people's. Interesting.
Right.
So what's the, so if I'm a brand listening to this, and I'm, we've gone through some of these mistakes, and like I'm thumping my head like, why didn't I think about this, Daniel? Of course I could spend more hours talking about this with you, but for the sake of keeping you on schedule with our days and busy days, can people reach out to you directly, or what's the best way to get in touch with you or AMZ Clever?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, so I'll share my email. It's daniel@amzclever.com. And, open to, if you just want to reach out to ask a follow-up question, you want to learn more about us, or you just want to connect with me. I try to, get back to everybody, when I can. So we'd love to connect. That's just more like on a general side, but more specifically, I wanted to extend a free gift to your audience.
All right.
So, once again, 8 years experience, generated over 200 million in sales on Amazon, Walmart. I want to give the chance to one person to pick up my brain, doing a 30-minute ask me anything Zoom call. Just your questions, whatever you need. We can do rapid fire, take as much as you want from my brain. To the first person to email me with the subject line, that the email must have the subject line that I'll let you, Ryan, come up with it.
Gotcha.
What you want
Sending it right now to the ether. If anyone emails, email Daniel for a free 30-minute AMA consultation. You just mentioned the Global Spin Podcast in the subject line. Again, it's just Daniel at amzclever.com. Just mention me or the Global Spin Podcast, and you get a free consultation. You get someone who gets to look at all your listings and unsolicited time with Daniel. That's our gift. I love it.
Awesome.
So the first person who does that, if you're listening to this after the fact, you never know. Someone might have thought that someone already reached out. So go ahead and take a look at this. The audio version will be up here in a little bit. So beat the crowd if you're listening or watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Go and email Daniel at amzclever.com. Daniel, any other parting words of advice? What's here? Here's an easy question. What's the next time we'll see you in an in-person event?
Well, Amazon is putting there are two events together again, I think. Amazon Accelerate, Amazon Unbox. I plan to be there. And other than that, I still don't know.
Amazon Accelerate we will be there, and we will be there in September. I think it's 12th and 13th. So that's the one I know. Unbox, I believe, is before or right after. I always forget which falls first, but details coming soon. You'll hear me shouting from the mountaintops. Zoe, you'll be there in person, or are you exhibiting? You'll just be there?
Yeah, most likely. Most likely I'll be there in person, to learn and also connect with people.
Love it.
Looking forward to kick it with you.
Yeah, we'll kick it together for sure. They'll be in Seattle, so it'll be not a tropical place like you've been in the past. I was going to mention that earlier. You've seemed to hit Bali, China. I mean, I don't know what the climate is in China. Haven't been there yet, but here in the future, I'm sure I will be. But in Florida, I'm sure it's hot and humid, like it is here today, where I'm at in the Midwest. So we'll make sure we cool down a little bit in September in Seattle, Washington. So, hey, thanks for coming on today, Daniel. We loved having you on the guest. You're not a friend of the show. Anyone who comes on as a guest and makes it through an hour with me can consider themselves a guest of the show. So thanks for all you do. And if you haven't already, everyone, make sure you follow Daniel on Facebook or LinkedIn and share all of his tips on social media. He has great insights, as you heard earlier in the episode. So thanks so much for hopping on today, Daniel.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. It was nice to spin.
Nice to spin. I love that. Sorry, I cut you away before. It was nice to spin. I like that phrasing. So I'll mark it down as one of my little catchphrases. So thanks so much today. And thank you, everyone, for hopping on the Global Spin Podcast. It was nice spinning with you today in my corner of the internet, as Daniel liked to say. If you haven't before, go ahead and check out our podcast on your favorite destinations on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. And go ahead and follow us. You can search for us at Frisbi, or you can follow me at Ryan Cramer. Just search for me. I'm the guy with the halos in the background. I'm spinning all over in all of my pictures, so just with a little less facial hair. So I'm the host of the Global Spin Podcast. My name is Ryan Cramer. Catch us next time as we go live. We'll be live tomorrow again. I came back from vacation yesterday, and I don't mess around. I start going in with all sorts of content, and here we are to learn and grow your business, moving forward unscripted here on the Global Spin Podcast. So we'll catch you guys next time on another episode. Make sure you subscribe and take care in the meantime.